Hi, all you cave dwellers, and welcome to the Cavern Podcast. The Cavern Club, the most famous club in the world. From the Beatles and the Stones to the Arctic Monkeys and Adele. Join us on our podcast for Cavern Conversations. Each episode we talk to a special guest with real Cavern connections. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast. I'm your host, John Keats, and you are listening to Series 1, Episode 12. So the final episode of this series. Now today, we are joined by not one guest, but two. And not only that, they are also a married couple. They're both well known in the TV and film world, and have just launched their own podcast, which we will of course be talking about. Both of them are Beatles fans, but as far as I know, only one of them has ever performed in the Cavern Club. And surprisingly, that's not the one who was in a signed indie band in the 90s. No. Intrigued? Let's crack on. Welcome to the Cavern Podcast, Vicky, McClure and Jonny Owens. How are you?
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John.
The first thing I have to say, Vicky, are you impressed with the pronunciation of your name? Vicky?
I am.
And it's correct.
It is correct, McClure.
Yeah, well, I had the debate last week with myself. I was thinking, so I did the thing where you Google how to say it, and I did say to Paul, who's in the corner there, we should play the samples of like on the internet of like various strange versions of pronouncing your name, and then I found an article, and you said that you get to the point where you don't bother correcting people anymore if they say McClure or whatever.
No, I think there's bigger things going on in the world. I'll let it go.
I think there is, but I like to get things correct. So welcome, Vicky McClure and Jonny Owen, to the Cavern Podcast. You're in your very posh studio. We're in mine. We've just been comparing our tea selection. Just in case we do use this as a clip, this is the Cavern choice of brew. You've got all the posh Ponzi ones, I do believe, in that studio.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can grab them.
I think it's important the viewer needs to know.
Yes, and just the viewer needs to know, we are not at home. Yeah. We are in a studio. We're in an actual studio.
What was that one there? Oh, that's
Twinings.
That's classic. You
is it Twinings or is it Twinings?
I would say Twinings.
Twinings. I say Twinings.
Okay,
yeah, I'll bring the tone down again. Yeah,
we'll get into that. So welcome anyway. Congratulations. You got married last August. I remember. I saw all the pictures on Instagram. It looked like a good do. So we're going to get straight into music to get us going on this. You're both into music, which we're going to talk about Day Fever, which I'm fascinated about. Quick question for you. What was your first dance at the wedding last year and who chose it?
We chose it together. It was a Beatles song, actually, that has become sort of the Dementia Choir that Vicky runs anthem in my life. And,
okay,
that was the first song.
So it was In My Life, which is I think you had that on the T-shirt when you... so we'll reveal, actually, that's a great lead in
yes.
this. We will reveal which one of you two has actually performed at the Cavern Club. And the answer is, drum roll, it's not Jonny. Yeah. So you were with us. This is how we met last November, wasn't it?
It is, and it's a loose... performed at the Cavern Club. Yes, I will take it and I will run with that all day long because it is, the coolest place on earth, as we all know. But it was very much the Dementia Choir that was performing for a great initiative that the Cavern Club have got involved in making sure that, Beatles music can be streamed across care homes across the country, which I think is a fantastic initiative and something that will, really, really help people. But yeah, we performed. We have got this Beatles medley now that we perform at most events that we go to. But performing there, and the last time I'd been to the Cavern Club was with you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you just, it's dripping in history. But when we arrived there and we got, people that are going through some really tough times, the minute we all walked through the door and you're just immersed in the history and the music, and then you start telling us, who'd performed here before, and you just go, wow, what a moment for everybody that was, and for myself, but mainly for the choir. It was a real moment.
It was a special night, I have to say, because our mutual friend Simon Weitzman was filming it, and he's been the link. We do a lot with Simon, got a lot of time for him.
Yeah.
And it had been in the calendar for 12 months, along with we're such a busy venue, and I knew how important it was, and even the prep that went into this event. I was saying this, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. There was more emails flying between myself and Simon and other organisers than if when McCartney played. Not quite, but it's usually the case because we do a lot of charity events and a lot of community based stuff. The Cavern Club, which is important that we do that, and this was one of those projects. And I think because of the nature of the members of the choir, they needed that extra care and attention, to get here. So a lot of work went into it, and I have to say it was an incredibly special night. I found it really emotional, which I said that to you on the night. It was powerful, and it is that power of music, isn't it? You going back, was it 2018? The Dementia Choir started. Was that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And, over that time, we've learnt a lot. And, we're a music-based charity. We're not a medicine-based charity. We're not a science-based charity, anything like that. So, what we do is what we did that night, which is sing and, learn new songs and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting, really, because there are members of the choir that weren't or aren't big Beatles fans. And yet, in my life, I remember when I heard that song in the car, I was with my mum and I said, this, the lyrics really resonate in terms of dementia and what my nonna had gone through, and memories and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's an interesting one. I might see if the choir are up for that. And even if it's not particularly something that they listen to or it's in their taste, it's become their song. And it means something to them that it never did before. And it very much does to me as well, because, I've become a Beatles fan. Not
brainwashed.
I wasn't brainwashed, but I certainly was educated. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that song. I always think with a lot of the Beatles songs like that have gone on to mean something to people. Like In My Life, so many of those songs. Like John Lennon was like 25 when he wrote that song, and like John and Paul, they were writing these songs that have just got such depth. When they were just kids, which is similar to When I'm 64, which it's not one of my favourite Beatles songs, but it's one of Paul's more whimsical ones. But he wrote that when he was like 14 years of age, which
wow.
You think, how did they have that vision? But no, it was a really special night, and I know we're doing it again in November. And I know there's other plans that we can maybe do some other regular live streams or take possibly our Cavern Club Beatles, our resident band, get one of their shows into the care homes as well, because the power of music is just is huge. So you did tell me on when we met back in November that you'd been here. Were you filming in Liverpool together?
No, we was just on a day out, weren't we?
Well, we were when we went to the Cavern together.
Yeah.
No, we went to the Cavern the same day as the show Svengali over in.
That was it.
Over in Tranmere, wasn't it? Over that sort of way, on the Wirral.
I wanted to ask you about that film. I've never seen it. I hate to admit it, but I was reading about it the other day, and I looked at the trailer, and I've got to watch it. I've just been telling my brother in the office who works for us. He'd never seen it either. It looks hilarious, and you've got so many people in it as well. It looks good. Was that originally was an internet series, and which developed? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we started on the internet. 2008, so long ago now.
Oh my gosh.
And before Twitter. And it used to take us all night to load it up on YouTube, or so long ago it was. And then it just became sort of a bit of a, sort of an internet sort of, not phenomenon, but, a lot of people shared it. And then it got picked up by a production company and then made by Universal. And that's where I met Vicky. So it was kind of like, it's quite a sort of a nice story to that as well. I sort of cast her as my love interest in it. And then art imitated life, or life imitated art, as they say. So we ended up together.
Well, that's lovely. I didn't realise that. That's great.
Yeah.
I've got to watch it. I've got to, and is it true that it was based on the manager of your old band? Is that right?
That's right, yeah. Paul Dixie, who managed this. And I always think it's such a thankless task managing bands. Bands are awful. I was in one. You're encouraged to behave badly, really, aren't you? You know, if Pete Doherty falls over in a bar, people think he's a poet. If an electrician does it, he gets thrown out. I've always thought, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, you know, I thought there's so much comedy in that, so much comedy in the way you have to behave around bands. And that's why we made the film.
No, I can't wait to watch it. We actually, talking of Pete Doherty, he actually played about 2 weeks ago.
Did he?
Oh, did he?
He turned up, did he, off Hipley?
Yeah, he did. It's funny. He played about 18 months ago. He was doing a project with a French guy who can't quite, Frederic Lowe. He did a project with him, which is really mellow, quite really poetic and beautiful. So he did that, and on the night on stage, he casually mentioned about how the Libertines had done one of their earliest gigs at the Cavern in the back room, the live lounge, where Vicky performed. And he said there was about 6 people in the audience. It was one of those like horrible, it was before my time, I have to say. It was one of those horrible pay-to-play jobbies when you got to sell X amount of tickets, and there was about 6 people. They went up onto Matthew Street for a cigarette, came back, and there was even less. But the point is, we were all like that. We didn't know the Libertines had played. Completely missed out of our history. And it makes you think, how many other bands, you know, that has gone through our doors, and they haven't got a brick in the wall yet. But we rectified that with Libertines. And your band, Jonny, the Pocket Devils, you never played the Cavern, but you must have gigged in Liverpool. Did you?
We did, yeah. We played the Picket, the famous Picket in Liverpool. Good crowd as well, as always, you know, in Liverpool. I remember, but we did it in a night up and back in a tranny van from South Wales. But it was just one of those things where we were just, you know, even to say, you know, and this was the early 90s, and more so now, to say you played in Liverpool is such a massive thing, you know, when you're a band, because, you know, most of us were Beatles fanatics, I was particularly, so we really wanted to play the city, and it was like a real sort of like, something for the CV, like I said, tick the box, to say. But the Cavern then, I don't know, you'd probably know better, John, I don't think it was kind of like, was it taking indie bands? This is sort of 91, 92, that sort of period, you know?
Spot on. We took over the Cavern as a company in 1991, and at the time, I mean, it failed. It reopened. You know, I could go over the whole history of it, but it reopened on its original site in '85, and it didn't. They didn't quite get it right. And by the early '90s, you're right. It was pretty much it was a disco venue. It was Monday night was the big student night, you know, and queues down Matthew Street. But when we, as a company, I wasn't involved with them at the time, although I was mates with them, and I'd gigged in the Cavern. But when we took it over, the mission was to get it back to being a venue and to what it was and what it should be, which we've done now. So you're right, in the early 90s, that opportunity, it probably took till about the mid-90s before we every time we put live music on, we'd lose money because it becomes such a student disco venue. Which is
it's interesting the way that, I mean, the whole thing with the Beatles. I mean, when I fell deeply in love with the Beatles in the mid 1980s, they were spectacularly unfashionable at that time. I remember they just were putting out. Remember the picture discs of the singles they were re-releasing on the anniversaries, and I think the first one, "Love Me Do," got on the charts, and then it kind of like by that point, the mid 90s, they were putting Paperback Writer out in '86. I bought it. It was like getting to number 76 in the charts, you know. So there wasn't that great renaissance, which has happened brilliantly since. And Liverpool was the same. I went to the old Beatles city as a Christmas present in the mid 80s. Right. There was nobody in there. I was in heaven, you know. And I was about 13-year-old kid going, "Oh, this is amazing," you know. I was buying all the posters and all the rest of it. But that shut down. It was on Seal Street.
Yeah.
And you know, the rejuvenation of what the Beatles mean to the city and what it is like now there is just fantastic. That's why I keep going back. I mean, when I was in the Cavern I think it was last year, my mates, it was on a stag weekend, but we went to the Cavern because of me, and it was football on, and one of the boys went, "This is like living in Jonny Owen's head," because there was like Beatles everywhere and some football. And so I'm just delighted that there's so much stuff built. I mean, it's become like Memphis in that sense, which is only quite right. Like the statues and the statue down on, you know, on the front, and there's all the stuff in Matthew Street, but the Cavern walks and all this stuff that's sprung up means I go back to Liverpool quite often because, as I said, you know, I'm a Beatle fanatic, really.
Well, that's good. I mean, you couldn't have sold it better than me, actually, and it makes a change rather than me doing that education thing. But yeah, no, the Beatles City on Seal Street. I can't believe you went to that. That's amazing.
It is, yeah.
That was they were ahead of it as the company. our company's Cavern City Tours Limited, and we were one of the pioneers of that whole Beatle tourism. We'd already taken over the running the Beatles Magical Mystery Tour. We actually used to have the original bus off the film as well. That's what the tours were actually done on. So we'd taken over that.
We haven't went on it.
We haven't got it now. But we'd taken over that, and then we'd taken over the Beatle convention, which Alan Williams and Bob Wooler had started in the late 70s. And along with Beatle City, we were pioneers, but we had the product, we had the vision, the Beatle fans, and the recognising the potential for tourism. But we just didn't have, the 80s. Liverpool was as you've alluded to, really. I always say the story of the Cavern's rebirth is hand in hand with the story of Liverpool's rebirth, which goes right the way through up to capital of culture and the wave that we've been able to ride since then and keep doing so. So it's nice that you come here and you recognise that.
It's a fantastic city. I said to everybody that I know, you've got to go there for a weekend. Even if you're, not a Beatle fan like me, there's so much to do in the city culturally. And like you're saying, there's the Renaissance in Liverpool is a wonderful thing, I think. And I think that Manchester's had a lot to do with that. I love the fact that two great northern cities compete against one another in a really positive way, and they both trying to say this is a better city, and it propels them both, I think, footballly and culturally as well.
Don't start me on Manchester. and don't start me on football. Unfortunately, I support the blue side.
Oh, well, we know Sean really well. He's a good mate to Sean Dyche, so he's a good lad, and he's trying his best.
He is trying his best, absolutely. Well, I know you're a huge football fan. So getting back to so when you two get together, Vicky, you're not particularly a Beatles fan, or it's just like a general band?
Listen, I am definitely a Beatles fan in so much as I just was a bit late to the club. So when me and Jonny got together, you do that thing, don't you? A bit like you said earlier. I'd say, I don't like to bicker, don't like any drama. That's a lie. And then Jonny would say, I'm dead romantic, and I'll always buy you, flower. No, that's a lie. And then you'll say, what music are you into? And, he's telling me all about the Beatles. Yeah, me too. Love the Beatles. Yeah. You're just saying all these things because you're just so smitten at that moment in time. And, I'd be lying if I said I knew like the classics, Hard Day's Night, All You Need Is Love. I knew all the classics and loved the classics. But then Jonny I said, right, take me right back to the start. And we went through every album. And it turns out that my favourite album is the first, isn't it?
You like Please Please Me?
Yeah.
You love Ask Me Why, don't you? Ask
Me Why is one of my favourite songs.
Yes, great song. It's a great song.
On those early albums, just so many little hidden gems, which...
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're almost like throwaway songs. I say that all the time with that early stuff. It's not the popular ones. It's the ones that they were just probably just churning out, these 2-minute 30 pop songs and some classics on that.
Hey, but John, like 9 chord changes and things like that, you think they're going to be really simple to play, like the Stones are all 3 chords, which is true. And you try and play a Beatles song from like 63, and it's like 11 chord changes and all these weird jazz. They were amazing, really. They were so far ahead of the game, like in what they were doing. It was incredible.
Well, I love the randomness of it. The taste of honey. I mean, what? Like, when you look back and watch these videos that they've now brought out, where you can see them all drinking tea and eating toast, and
that's
just how they roll. You kind of go, what a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like.
I think it's going back to what they grew up with. What Paul's father was. He was a band leader, and the music they were growing up to, and musicals, and the melting pot of influence with the Beatles is all there. And of course, that's before you even get onto the whole Motown and repackaging that.
Yeah, incredible.
We could talk about the Beatles forever. We're going to talk about the podcast, but I want to talk about Day Fever. Which I don't know if when we met back in November that we spoke about it, but I think just after I saw the first thing about it, you were in Manchester on a couple of nights back. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's right. So when we met, John, it probably was not really set up at that point, or if it was like one event in Sheffield that we'd decided to do for just before Christmas. But this is Jonny's brainchild. This isn't mine. So I'm going to let Jonny tell you more about it.
Oh yeah, with a lot of help from like the lads have set up within Sheffield and you, of course, promoting it. But yeah, I had an idea just to go out in the afternoon, just to create a classic nightclub, John. Not a rave, not everybody went raving. There's this myth now we were all in fields and warehouses. Not true. We were mostly in nightclubs. That's where we mostly were in the 80s and 70s. And, to create that world again, like a great music, a bar if you want a pint, and that's it. That's it, really. That's about it. And then we just had an idea to make it over 30s and music to be sort of from the birth of rock and roll to the year 2000. So obviously we played the Beatles and things like that, but we played loads of stuff from all the different decades, and people seem to love it. It's safe, it's great fun, and the music seems to get people dancing all day. So we did Manchester on Saturday just gone. We're doing Liverpool in about next month, a place called Cavern Club. We sold that out in 6 hours. 1,000 tickets went, which is a classic Liverpool. And we can't wait to get there, really, and have a good time. I'll be playing plenty of Beatles that day, I can promise you that.
Excellent. It's funny, when I first read about it or heard about it, and it was, I think, when we'd started talking about, trying to arrange a date to do this, I thought, it's great, because it's my concept or my understanding was it. Someone said, I don't know if I read this, you can go out in the daytime, but you're still, you're still back in town to get your takeaway and watch Match of the Day.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
which for me is brilliant. It takes a lot to get me out on a Saturday night. Even in this industry, I'm not around in the nighttime. I've done my time.
And me.
Yeah, I'm like many people of my age. And I am the cliche. Not only have I got a camper van, I'm also into my Cascales. And I won't go anywhere unless they've got a Cascale, and it's got to be the right Cascale, and preferably straight from work, home for 7, in me comes, I'm happy.
Same.
So it's terrible.
Same. Yeah.
But I was thinking initially, it sounded like it's the afternoon. It's almost like the afternoon sessions of the Cavern,
Yeah.
Because that it's everyone went out there. They came in the lunch break, but I haven't seen the videos. It's nothing like the Cavern. And I know it's not a rave. But I did see, Vicky, when you played the Cavern, when you performed the Cavern, Jonny.
Yeah.
So
No, I've never played the Cavern. I'm going to have to try and rectify that now, and some way.
We'll sort that. But my abiding memory when you were with the Dementia Choir on the last one, which was Hey Jude, the arms were aloft, and it was, you were there right at the back, grabbing all the attention. And I couldn't help but notice on something I saw on Instagram, you were doing the same on Saturday in Manchester.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm much like you two, a little bit younger, but I am sort of, I'm done with going nightclubbing till 2 a.m. That's not going to happen anymore. I don't feel the need to do it. And if it was to be that late, I reckon it'd be a house party.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You'd need to be somewhere where you've got your shoes off, you can still have a cup of tea if you fancied a cup of tea, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of me getting everybody going, that is something I've always done. It's not something that I do because I'm being told Johnny's going, go and get the crowd going, or the Dementia Choir go and get everyone G'd up. I just find myself naturally wanting everyone to have the best time. And we did have YMCA on in Manchester on Saturday, and there's a brilliant video of the entire room of people just getting well into it, because it's only really if you're back in, if we're going back in time, or you're at a wedding or something like that you get the opportunity to really give that a go.
Did
Nothing like being in unison.
Did you at any point, or have you gone down the oops upside your head route?
Nearly. Do you know, we've
close.
got it. The only thing I was a bit nervous about it, because we're a slightly older crowd, I don't want to get stuck down there. You can't jump up anymore, John, like you did when we were 17.
Absolutely. I mean, oops, what a ridiculous. I mean, you are a bit, I think we're similar age, Jonny, but I obviously had a hard paper round, but you are a lot younger. But I remember, I'm back in the school youth club now. It's oops upside your head. Everyone's down. But I couldn't get up for that now. So, but it's
No, and also I was be worried about, like, if you got light coloured trousers, even in them days, those floors, they weren't, they were a bit mucky, weren't they? With spilled beer and whatnot.
Yeah, we better not do that in Rock City. Sticky floor.
Yeah, so no, Day Fever looks fantastic, and I do love the concept. That's a perfect venue, by the way, Camp and Furnace. I mean, they have some great stuff there.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about your podcast, which is the main reason we're here, because we launched that. You're on episode 12 of our podcast, and it's called Duck Butt. Now, I was sent the brief press overview, and duck butt. I understand duck, the Nottingham term for for me me duck, me dear, me darling. I didn't know about butt, so which is a Welsh thing. Just talk us through that, Johnny.
Yeah, butt or butty is friend in Welsh. It's an old miners thing apparently. They'd work in pairs, and your pair or your person who worked with your partner was your butty, and it's still a term we use to this very day. So in Wales, you'd hear people saying, "All right, butt," it means hello, friend. So we thought we'd join them both. The term of affection from Nottingham, where Vicky's from, and the term of affection from the South Wales Valleys, Merthyr Tydfil, where I'm from, and put them together, and they really liked it. Global, didn't they? Duck butt. They like it's quite a memorable name.
It's a memory, yeah, exactly that.
It's a memorable name, and it's also a greeting to both parts of the world where we both came from.
Yeah. No, that's you wouldn't forget duck butt. Although I did need to look at my notes. So tell us about it. What it sounds like it's going to be quite light-hearted, or could it go either way? Tell us about it.
Well, there's plenty of bicker in there, so you'll be all right.
Spot on.
Yeah, I mean, it's this and that and everything in between. It's exactly what you said, really. It's a couple, a newly married couple, and we're just talking about the world. I mean, it can be something stupid from the washing to, the sort of day-to-day mundane stuff that I feel, is relatable and a bit funny, and making sure that it's obviously we're keeping it light-hearted. But we do have some interesting debates, me and Johnny. And one thing that he's been amazing to me for over the last 12 years is education. Like, I really didn't concentrate.
Like the Beatles.
Exactly. Yeah. He educated me on the Beatles.
You mean there's more to life than the Beatles?
No, not really.
Not in this hour, no. But there's loads I've learned over the years because of Johnny. And
the same for me with you.
And it's just been a bit of a, it's the University of Life.
Eggs. We talked about eggs, John, in the first one. And they loved it because I keep trying to feed her eggs. It's a superfood now, and I love eggs. So they're back in fashion. Do you remember there was a time, John, when they would give you heart attacks, apparently?
Yeah.
But now they're very good again. All the footballers eat them. So Vicky reckons I'm trying to kill her with eggs because I have one every morning.
And I've got to be careful because if you have too many eggs, they can bind you, can't they?
Oh, really? See,
one a day is probably enough.
Although I'm not great with if they've not been done for a certain time, there can be like a bit of jus.
Oh yeah, you like yours a little bit more well done than mine. I like mine very dippy.
Yeah.
You like yours a little bit harder, don't you?
Yeah, I'm just not sure.
How do you like your eggs in the morning?
So, did the Beatles do a song about eggs? They must have done.
I'm the Eggman, isn't it?
Oh, there you go.
I am the Eggman.
Talking of getting things right, and this is important. I still gig in the Cavern like 4 days a week, and I always say probably about 10 minutes in, and it's a device. You have devices to get you places if you're in the middle of a set. About 10 minutes, I always say this question, saying, "Ladies and gents, I really need to ask a question. It's a very important question. It could it could change the whole mood of the afternoon, the evening." And then I go on to say, is there anybody in the Cavern for the first time? And then it's a device then for me to go around the room and find out who, which countries basically, where people are, because it's, that's our market research right there on the stage. If you want to know who's visiting Liverpool. But recently I changed it. I did do the whole dramatic, nonsense build up. And then I say the important question. So you ready for the question? Yeah, we're ready. Okay, yeah. Has anybody got an air fryer?
We got one.
So I changed it because and then I go on to say, it's like anyone. I don't like to be too serious on stage. You're standing there and you're singing someone else's songs and having a laugh. But I say, I came late to the party. It's amazing, isn't it? And then I go on to tell them that, of course, that's not the question I was going to ask. But aren't they amazing?
They are.
But the thing is. And we've had this conversation, like Paul's in here at the moment. On everyone after Christmas.
Not me.
No, not Paul.
What?
Paul, have you got what? I've got an air fryer. That's the one. Hang on.
You've got better than an air fryer.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, what's he got?
7 minutes, 170 degrees, game changer.
Ooh.
What? So you're doing your boiled eggs in the air fryer?
Yeah, I know. How lazy can
Is that you?
That is.
You haven't just robbed it off the internet.
No, that's genuine.
That's what I was going to. We've been having these conversations, and I'm saying, why would you do eggs in an air fryer? you've got a pan, you've got the water, you've been nailing it, you're an adult, you've been doing it for years. And he's gone to the dark side.
And that's Warburton's Toasty there, John.
Warburton's Toasty.
Oh,
in the air.
Yeah,
It's the right
I
bread
get
for
it.
Vicky.
It's the right bread. Do you know what it is as well? It's blooming TikTok. That's the problem. So I'm like scrolling, and then all of a sudden I'll see this like bagel, cheese, egg, with this. And the way they do it makes it look so damn easy and so delicious that I'm like, right, I'm going to go to the shop and I'm going to buy exactly what they've got. It never looks quite as nice. And then I was, I'm sort of new to the air fryer world, so I'm testing things out as well. I've actually bought one of those.
Ninja.
Yeah, no, I've bought one of those like, it is a Ninja, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you went for the posh
But
one?
I just went for the one that everyone else had and just sort of went for the confidence that it does the job.
I'm not on TikTok. Vicky's more TikTok.
I'm not on it, but
All
I just looked through it. But
She's on it.
I
all
did
the
have
time.
to.
She falls down the dark hole of TikTok. Don't worry about that.
No, I know,
Okay.
but I just don't have an account where I'm TikToking. I haven't got time to give the
But
content.
you like to observe.
I like to observe, yeah. But I have bought one of those things because I need to know how long and like. I don't know the system of it yet.
No.
I'm still learning.
Well, it's like any oven. You've got to get used to it. Have you got
Yeah.
one of those temperature things? I can't be doing with that.
Oh no!
it
What
says-
do I need?
Well, it says when you're doing your chicken, make sure you've got a temperature thing. Paul over there, who's nailing the eggs in his air fryer, he's our technical director. Of course, he's got one of those thermometers that you put in. No,
Oh, you stick it in the chicken? You stick it
Yeah.
on? All right, okay.
no, you feel it, don't you? You've got to feel it.
Yeah, just cut it. It's pink, isn't it?
I think.
Oh.
I think we.
Well, if it's done pink, don't eat
No,
it.
I know. But isn't it just the worst feeling? Pink,
Yes.
like uncooked
It's
chicken.
not good. Not good. To kill you as well. Anyway, I think that's enough. It's enough
It's not like an
eggs.
egg. Safer than an egg, yeah.
It's enough about eggs, but I've got to ask you on the 1-page overview which I was sent over about the podcast, and one of the random topics that could be is red or blue milk. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
It's called a
We s-
commonfuss in the house. It's an incident.
So was it? Is,
Yeah,
is
we
it
speak
between
about
red and
this.
red? It's red or blue, not green. Green's not in the mix.
It's green.
Oh, it's green.
Yeah, it's green or blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got to change that because we don't have red.
No,
that's
we don't.
skimmed.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I've confused myself here because this is the I haven't made many notes for this, but okay, so it's blue or green milk, and my question is, why not red? What have you got against red?
Wow. Okay. So are
Too
you
You
watery.
think?
too watery? Yeah.
nothing. It's like you accidentally bought a Lurpak, lightly salted. It's nothing there.
It is lighter.
There's no character there.
Yeah.
You got to have something, and that's the thing with red top milk. There's nothing there.
No,
it's too skimmed.
But
I get you.
I've got to think. We switched to red milk years ago when the kids were young. Obviously, it wasn't child cruelty, so they did get blue milk.
Yeah, better for them as well. Bones, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But we switched to red milk, and it was more to do with. I was thinking about this. I think it was more to do with the calories because I don't have a lot of milk, and I'd rather save my calories for like a wine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I switched to red. But if I drink green milk now, it's like cream. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think once you've gone red, I don't know, but. So,
Oh, John, this is what happened, John. So I bought blue. I'd had a few, right? I was coming through Nottingham station. Vicky texted me, pick up milk. I'd had a bit to drink. Picked up a blue one, feeling brave. Left it, didn't tell Vicky. She went downstairs in the night to have some cereal. She loves having a cereal later in the night if she's a bit peckish. She came back up. She was like, this is the best cereal I've had in ages. I didn't say anything. In the morning, she goes down and she was like, because it was dark earlier on, she went, oh, it's blue top. And I was like, yeah, I bought blue top. Thought you'd try. She was like, you can't do that without telling me. So you lost your mind, didn't you? Because I
Yeah,
haven't told
well,
you.
the thing was, I thought it was an accident. I thought he picked up blue milk thinking it was green. So when I said, oh my God, you bought blue milk, like, did you realise? He was like, yes, I did. And I was like, you can't just change milk in the middle of our marriage.
but
Like,
but look what it did to the cereal. It's like
Absolutely,
I
this is my point.
know, but I couldn't, I just wasn't in the,
All them calories, I suppose, isn't it? That's the problem. That's the sacrifice.
yeah.
but it
Also,
tasted
it was
good.
just,
It did taste amazing. Then you were like, oh my God, this is the best cereal I've ever had in my life.
but it was a treat.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, it's a treat. I wasn't mentally prepared to take a change that I've been green milk all my life.
Oh God, but that's I mean, it's not good, is it? I mean, 12 years marriage.
These are debatable. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't lace some with crack. It's like just blue milk. Do you know what I mean? Dear God.
I've got another.
I feel like a dealer or something. I mean, shamed.
I've got another one. I've got another one for you.
Go on.
Okay. The obvious one is Beatles or Stones. Beatles, Stones.
Beatles.
It's
I mean, both
Beatles.
brilliant, but
Yeah.
Beatles, yeah.
Bearing in mind, we're talking about the early 90s, which might not be relevant to you, Vicky, but Blair or Oasis?
Oasis, yeah.
Okay. Why not Blair? The usual, a little bit too arty and a bit
Yeah,
bit
well,
southern.
do you know, straight away when somebody pretends to be a Cockney and then from, I don't know, Colchester, you're like, you know, it's like, it's not for me, do you know what I mean? Just be who you are. So, but I mean, great band and produced some, you know, decent songs and that, but they were no Oasis, you know. And great, you know, one of those things, Oasis, they really helped with the, I mean, they were just unashamed in their love of the Beatles, like I was. And I loved that about them. I mean, no one to this day is like going, they're the best band ever. Don't even bother trying to sort of compete with them. They're the Beatles. And I love the fact that they did that Oasis. They put into the national debate that the Beatles were just unsurpassable for everybody. And they were quite right too.
Yeah, they did. And they also, the guitar groups came back into fashion, you know, they brought that
Massively.
back in. So,
Yeah, massively.
and they did one of their very early gigs at the Cavern.
Everybody's played their John except for me.
I know, that's
Gotta
why.
change it.
That's why I just wanted to get that.
I seen his guitar there. I know Noel. He's a lovely lad, and I mentioned to him I was in the Cavern. I said, "You've donated a few things there," and he went, "Yeah, we have." So he's very proud of. I think he's got a guitar there, is he, and a few other bits and bobs as well.
there's a signed Gibson. It's one of what type of guitar, Paul? You don't know, do you?
Is it a Les Paul?
No, I think it's like a 335. I think
A 335 is it? Yeah.
But yeah, no, they played one of their earliest gigs, and it would have been around about the time you played the Picket, or maybe it would have been a bit later. It was
about a year later.
93, I think they played.
Yeah.
So answering our question before, when we were saying about when did indie music, when did the music start coming back into the Cavern, they played one of the unsigned nights. It was probably a pay to play.
Was it?
I can't find the reference of it now because I was looking for it recently, but he did say in an interview that he said, "Oh yeah, I vaguely remember playing the Cavern and remember thinking what how shit it was. It was like a wine bar." and to be fair, when the Cavern reopened in '84, it was built on the original site and they used all the original drawings and the plans and the photographs. And they actually used about 60-70% of the original bricks, you know, for the archways. They are from the original, because it was slightly further down. So they built it in a different configuration. But when they opened it, they sort of thought they were going to aim at the people who used to go to the Cavern. And they were thinking, okay, well, they're going to be in their early 40s now, all the original cave dwellers. So they want something a bit more sophisticated. So there was carpets on the floor. This is in the Cavern. Carpets there. The back scene, the stage where you performed, Vicky, not you haven't performed there, Jonny. The live lounge, the scene of your greatest musical triumph, Vicky. That was weirdly, and I remember it was done out like an oldie 1960s street scene with all these lampposts and the shop front. It was bizarre. I actually played the Cavern in 1987, which was a long time ago. So that was it. And I remember I was 19, 20, and we were doing a play about Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, of course. Ringo's first band, and it was I was playing the bass player, and the musical was in town, and we did a press launch. I remember thinking how disappointed I was. This is not the Cavern. This is not. It was like So I don't blame Noel for saying that, but we've been trying to get him back for years. And Jamie Carragher.
Or maybe this is Johnny's time. Johnny, you're pally with Noel, so you could speak to him. You could play the bass for him.
Well, Johnny, have your paths ever crossed with Jamie Carragher?
No, never Jamie, no.
Well, Jamie was on, he's done an episode of this series because he's, believe it or not, everyone who comes on this has to have a Cavern connection, which obviously Johnny hasn't.
Through my missus.
But anyway. So the connection with Jamie, he did a thing for his overlap thing, his Sky series with Gary Neville, and he got up with Jamie Webster, Liverpool singer, and sang "Twist and Shout." So that was one of his Cavern connections. He managed to blag in to see McCartney in 2018. But when we were chatting in the studio, he came in because he only lives local. he came in and I mentioned about Oasis, and he said, "Well, I don't mean to name drop, but I do actually know Noel." The next thing he's texting him. I said, "Well, tell him I spoke to him at the Q Awards like 10, 12 years ago, and he promised he'd play, which he did." He said, "I'd love to," and he said he hasn't. So he's texting him, and he tried, and he sent the text. I saw he was in Paris last night gigging. Because a friend of ours is his drummer, so there's connections there.
Yeah,
we're doing everything we can to get him here.
Yeah.
And just at the end, as we were wrapping up the podcast, Paul's sitting in the corner as he is now, and whereas he's just showed us pictures of his boiled eggs from his air fryer, on this particular episode, he's like, "No, there's a message come through from Noel." So this is, and it was just perfect time, and he'd answered him by the time we'd finished chatting, and he's saying, "Yeah, blah blah blah." I said, "Yeah, gig at the Cavern, maybe one day." Okay, so he's still thinking about it.
Okay.
But maybe
I'll mention it to him next time I see him. Yeah,
Johnny, maybe you could pick it up and you could do, because it's not. Still
Over to you now.
It's over to you. So can you get Noel for us?
well, I'll ask him. I'll say to him, if you play, can I come on and do a number on the bass, and then I can say I play the Cavern. Then can I kill two birds with one stone there? Couldn't we?
No, absolutely. I've got another duck butt type of thing to say. Okay, so you can't be John or Paul. You've got to be George or Ringo. Who's it going to be?
Well, that's fine for me because George was my favourite. I don't know why that was. I was about 11 or 12, and my brother lent me remember the VHS called The Complete Beatles, which they've taken back now. They took it back before the anthology. Roddy McDowell, I think, was the voiceover on it. Anyway, and he gave me this VHS. It's on Betamax. I watched it and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." I was only a kid. And then he went, "Oh, do you like that?" And I went, "Yeah." And he gave me the Red album. And that was me. I was away then. I was on this mad musical journey. But for some reason, John, and I don't know what this is, and apparently there's a psychologist who reckons it tells a lot about you as a human being, who your favourite Beatle is. I was a George fanatic, and I have been to this very day. I've always been my favourite George. I just think he looks great. And I just think something that just drew me to him as a kid. So when I'm 13, 14 in South Wales, this is like 1983, 84, my mates would come into my bedroom and they'd have like posters of, I don't know, U2, and I'd have the Beatles and George Harrison, and they'd be like, "What on earth? What is this?" And I just love him. I just think he's brilliant. And they were like,
Cindy Crawford?
"George Harrison." Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I was just obsessed with him. And then he had a massive hit in the late 80s. Do you remember with a song called "Got My Mind Set on You"?
Yeah.
And of course, I felt really vindicated because he was like number 2, I think he got to. He was like, number 1 in America. And I'm going, there we are, there's George Harrison. I told you he was great, didn't I? So, yeah, George, man. I'm a George man.
I've been listening to this thinking a lot of the things you were saying about just even the way, like, I've got to do, I think we're quite similar, but it was Debbie Harry was on my wall.
Yeah, there we go. I did love Blondie, but I was just obsessed with obviously the Beatles and George in particular. I just thought he was great, and it's one of my great, well, not regrets, but when he passed, I was like, I was obviously like everybody, I was devastated, and I just thought, I would have loved the chance to have met. I met McCartney. I shook McCartney's hand in the NME Awards. That was great, and left hand as well. I made sure I went in with the left hand. He was lovely, and I've never bumped into Ringo, but I've always thought, I would love to have met George. I bet George was a great. I do know Irving Welsh, who's a good mate of mine. He met him for an afternoon. He said he was great fun, great laugh, had a few beers, and took him to see his car collection. He had a big car collection apparently where he was, and he took Irving to go and see him. I was like, oh God, I'd love to have gone for an afternoon looking at George's cars. I'd have been in heaven. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, all of a sudden you're into cars.
yeah, I'm really into cars.
Really
lovely car, George. Yeah.
That was like me with Joey from Friends with Matt LeBlanc, because when I did Top Gear, there was an opportunity where he was on his own. I thought, I'll go and have a chat with him, and really hoping to talk about Friends, and all he wanted to talk about was cars, and I was like, oh yeah, I love catalytic converters. They're great, and yeah, the alloys are amazing. Can we talk about
He was having none of it. When I was looking at something the other day, you did a film with Madonna, which
yes, I did.
I was thinking, well, this is quite obscure, and it was it her first film that she directed as well?
It was the first film. It was pretty much, I think, fully funded by her, and she co-wrote it with a writer called Dan Cadan, who's big mates with Stephen Graham. And so at that point in my life, I didn't have an agent. I was working in the office, just tindling along, and I got a call from Stephen Graham to say Madonna's making a film, and one of her favourite films is A Room for Romeo Brass, and she really wants you in her film. So, which I just went, sod off. See you soon, take care, bye, put the phone down. I thought nothing of it because I thought he was winding me up. And then I got a call from her management and just said, she wants to offer you the part. I mean, there wasn't even an audition. It was just insane.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, before you know it, I'm in her house and I'm on set and we're on private jets. I mean, it was just bizarre.
So how old were you then?
I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
Yeah, mid-20s I was. And I left, I sort of said to work, I have to leave for 6 weeks. I've got to go and do a film with Madonna. It was just...
I need to take a sabbatical.
I'm taking...
Not one for a dramatic statement or anything.
No, not at all, not me. I'm not dramatic in any shape or form. It was amazing. Yeah, exactly. Lots of this. She taught me that.
Yeah.
She was great. I loved her. I look back at it and part of me kind of is glad that it was at the time it was, a time when social media and camera phones didn't exist, so there was none of that hysteria that sort of surrounded it. Although there is only sort of one photo of me and Madonna that I have, and I've got a black eye in it because my character's just been given a right shiner. So that's annoying. There's not much evidence, but it happened and it was brilliant. It was a great experience.
Absolutely, yeah. What an experience. And so that was before This Is England.
No, it was in between actually.
Okay.
So I'd done
hence
This Is
the
England
Stephen
the film.
Graham connection.
Yeah, so I'd done This Is England the film, but we hadn't started the series at that point, so it was just in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, This Is England. I just like everybody. I just loved that. I loved everything about it. The performances, the characters, and the soundtrack. When you look at the music, the soundtrack to that time.
The soundtrack's incredible to This Is England. And again, it was, much like when Jonny had talked to me about the Beatles, I remember Shane Meadows, who directed and wrote, and created the whole thing, sat down with us all because I was born in 1983, the year that film is set. Yeah. Some of the other cast weren't even born at that point. For us to have a real understanding of culture and what was going on at the time with things like the Falklands War and, just society, the music was always going to play a massive part, always does in anything that Shane does. But he went through things with us in such a way that really resonated, and it changed all of our music taste. Before you know it, we was all playing the Jam, or we was all playing music that we wouldn't normally have been playing, because he just got us into it, and we really got into the characters because of it. So it was a real education, actually.
Now, can I imagine that? I mean, it is again. It's like we spoke about before. It's the power of music. It just takes you back, and that period in particular, This Is England, just wonderful music. And that,
it really was, and the style and everything. It's like when me and Jonny met. Obviously, the character that he plays in Svengali is very much a mod, and that was a world in which I didn't have an awful lot of knowledge on. And so Jonny's explained, because he's got this coat, this famous Svengali Dixie coat that's got Parker with all these, like, it's got loads of drawings on it, and he's talking me through it, and it was, again, I was like, something I'd never really heard of, but you're still a mod at heart, aren't you?
I think, like same as you, John, I think I've always been a mod, really. I think that's my default setting, really, which is not a bad sort of look. I think I've even got Fred Perry on now. So it's like, I think it's...
The thing is, it's timeless, isn't it? That sort of style, when This Is England came about, and all of a sudden I'd gone from having really long hair to a completely shaven head with this big fringe. It completely changed what Vicky could wear in the day, as well as what Lol was going to wear, obviously. But I had to completely change my style the minute my head was, my hair was shaved and everything felt different. And it was really liberating. There was just something about it that I went, actually. I went straight to Fred Perry and just bought what I could afford.
Yeah, absolutely. But I presume when the series came along later on, there was 3 series, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. That
was a character you're more than happy to revisit.
Yeah, I mean, Lol as a character, she's been through hell and back. And there's just, as much as it's not an easy thing to do, and I'm sure there's easier roles out there that I could pick, but I like getting involved. I like having a challenge. I like to feel what it is that I'm actually portraying in some way. And that is how Shane works. It's improvised. It's built in the rehearsal period. You know, what happens on the day defines the scenes, and it's really organic. It's really different, and so you have to react rather than act. And that was something that was sort of embedded in me from a young age when I went to the TV workshop. So, you know, I'm so lucky. I know how lucky I am to be in that show. I think we all feel very much the same about it because, you know, I know it's a cool show.
Yeah.
And I know it resonated with a lot of people, not just because of its time, but because of its topics that are still very, you know, much the problems of today. That's why it was always called "This Is England" and not "This Was England."
Yeah. No, it was very powerful. I mean, it was incredible. I used to be an actor. I get lots of stick on this one. We've got a guy who oversees our podcast, and one of the things he picked up on, or two things he picked up on in the series when he's listening to him, he says, "Oh, okay, so John's just brought an album out, you know, which I haven't mentioned yet. I've stopped mentioning that. Oh, and John used to be an actor because there's so many times it comes up. But I used to be an actor, and I did go to Nottingham once for an audition. The only time,
really?
Yeah, because usually it used to be most auditions for me, obviously London or Manchester.
Yeah.
But I went to Nottingham, and you'd probably be able to tell me where I went. It was purely because Shane Meadows was an advert, and he was doing an advert. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't for This Is
Maybe
England.
it was 24/7.
I don't know. They were at the building.
No, the film. That was one of his.
Said it was for an advert.
It was for an advert.
No, it was for a commercial. But it was
right.
Shane Meadows, so I thought I've got to go for that.
Yeah, he's still adverts, didn't he?
Yeah. I can't remember which one, but I'll have to check.
I remember it took ages to get there, and I didn't get the job. But when it was
maybe we can get you an acting job, and then you can get Jonny on the Cavern, and then we're all square.
Well, we want. I'm going to say maybe. I know you're doing Camp and Furnace with Dave Fever, but at some point you could do maybe a smaller, intimate performance of Dave Fever in the Cavern Live Lounge, and
Beatles Dave Fever, that'd be right, wouldn't it?
And then if we set up maybe there's a guitar there and you play along, then you played the Cavern.
Yeah.
So
I'll get Jonny McClure in as well, couldn't I?
Yeah, because Jonny McClure, who's the lead singer of the Reverend and the Makers, he's a part of the Dave Fever crew. So we've pretty much got a band here.
Well, we play the Beatles. We play the Beatles on Dave Fever, obviously because of me. So we play some Beatles songs as well.
Well, maybe in the autumn or whenever it suits you, that's where we could get you to, and maybe we could, you know, we could maybe even look at maybe a brick in the Wall of Fame.
Oof.
You know what I mean? Well,
oh my word!
I mean, I might just be that. Bear in mind, I am an actor, or I was an actor, and I might have just said that for a bit of toffee, just to get, you know.
That's all right. I'll have to reciprocate, and John will have to get you in the nice posh bit of Everton and meet Sean, won't we?
Yes, there you go.
We'll go with the
in Sean, we trust.
Yes,
we've got to be in that stadium.
He's a big music fan. He loves the Beatles as well, Sean. I could get him down there, actually. That'd be a good shout, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I saw he was someone posted something on social media last summer. He was in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
So he's obviously into his music.
Yes, he loves his music.
As long as he concentrates on getting us. So your podcast Duck Butt is out. So we'll all be tuning in for that one. I can't wait for that one. Lots of bickering. Just keep the bickering up.
It's friendly biscuit. It's friendly banter and friendly bickering.
Yes.
Never trust a couple. Never trust a couple who don't bicker.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm like, how?
You can't.
You've got to have a disagreement at some point. Yeah. You disagree with everyone.
Even if it's about eggs or milk or bread, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a good woman, John. I always remember when Wales played England in the Euros in 2016. And it was the only game I missed because I had to fly back because Martin Compston was getting married because he's Scottish, of course, and they weren't there. So I had to be in the country, and I missed that game. And I was watching it, and Wales went 1-0 up, and then I was too nervous to watch. And then England equalised, and I heard England equalising because I was at the back garden because I couldn't watch it. And I heard the neighbour cheering, and I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. So I found my noise-cancelling headphones, remember, and I'm sat there. And I just checked about 1 minute into injury time. I thought, it's going to be 1-1, and we were through. And obviously England scored and I didn't know. And Vicky came to the back door and she just went.
That's love. That's
I
love.
know. It was the sweetest thing. She was like, I'm so sorry, England of school. I was like, oh, come on. Anyway,
It's only a game.
It's only a game.
It's only a game.
Never. It's
But
never a
there's
game.
a lot of passion in it. There's a lot of passion.
There is.
No, I know.
Now, we've been asking all of our guests on the series to choose 3 songs by Liverpool Merseyside artists. And I think Jay, who produces, had asked you to choose them. I've not got them in front of me. Can you? Oh, look
Can
at
you
that.
remember
Look
them?
at
Can you remember them?
No, it's,
Well,
I've got,
Hold
I've
on,
got them here.
There
I've
was-
got them here.
There was
Oh, he's got them.
yeah, there was definitely there was a Beatles song.
So the
obviously.
Beatles one, the first one you went for was "We Can Work It Out."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so difficult, John. Your favorite Beatles song. It's like asking somebody, like, what's it like to blink or breathe? It's just like natural. But I think, like when I look back now, and I think of the age. It's interesting what you were saying earlier on. The age they were when they wrote these songs. I mean, Paul was like 24 when he wrote "Yesterday." It's just remarkable the songs they wrote, but the depth, the meaning. But "We Can Work It Out." It's got an amazing message. It's a great pop song. It's so tuneful, and it's got that little sort of change, that amazing. I just think it's still one of the most perfectly written pop songs ever. So I went with "We Can Work It Out."
That's a great choice, and no one has taken that one. Unlike your second choice, which was the Lars.
Yeah,
There She Goes, which is a classic, and a song when it came out, it just took you right back to that. It was so 60s sounding, and there's so many stories around that. You chose that one, but unfortunately, somebody else has taken it. I think Clem Burke, Clem
We got
Burke from
picked him.
Blondie, talking about
Oh,
Debbie
well.
Harry pictures on the wall.
Clem was a mod, wasn't he? Clem was like an American mod, and he always had the Target T-shirt on and stuff.
Absolutely,
So, yeah,
he was in the
can have
studio.
that.
He was in the studio, and his hair is still amazing. He told us a great story about being. It wasn't on the podcast. It was. I think it was too embarrassing for him to do with a Noel Gallagher. He was side stage watching Noel Gallagher last year at a festival, and he was going up the stairs. And as he was going up the stairs onto the stage, or just before he stepped onto the grass, just before he went on there, and it wasn't grass. It was this pool of water, this deep pool that was green in colour. He went fully into the pool. Fully clothed in all his Clem Burke, rock star, all dressed in black. And he came up, and he said the most impressive, he said, I was just drenched, and all I could do was stand side stage with people thinking, why is he dripping wet? Why is he so? He said, he said, but importantly, my hair was still okay.
his hair was alright. That's the main thing, isn't it?
So Clem Burke has taken There She Goes. So we'll come back to that.
All right.
If you want to go straight in with another one, that's fine. If you
I think, well, I was going to say, there's an amazing song by Jerry and the Pacemakers called Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying, which was a big hit in America for him. It's a beautiful song. But if I stick with the Lars, because the Lars are great, I'll go with Feeling by the Lars instead. Nobody's had Feeling?
Yeah, nobody's had that.
There you go.
That's a great song as well. So many classics. And I think Cast very much picked up the mantle, didn't he? John Power picked that mantle up. Their new album's just come out, Cast, which is great.
Played Manchester after us on Saturday night, didn't they? They were in the very over the road. My mate of mine went to see them, and songs like All Right and obviously Fine Time and all that, great tunes. Like I remember them when they came out. I bought that first album. Good band, Cast. Obviously, John was the bass player, wasn't he, with Lee in the Lars, and kind of swaps about between the two bands, isn't he? Which is quite a nice thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going in. Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying, which I have to say is my favourite Jerry and the Pacemakers song.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's one of the ones Jerry wrote. That has gone as well. Somebody, I don't know if Paul, somebody chose that.
Somebody
one.
had that today. There we go.
So that had gone anyway. So you got the Lars in there. And
got the Lars in it.
But the next one is this one of your? Is this your choice, Vicky? The real
no,
thing?
It's me.
No, this is Johnny.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me. I mean, the real thing. I mean, me and Mark Webster, my partner on Talksport, we bonded over the real thing because he was a massive fan and I'm a big fan as well. And I think they were Talk Stuff boys as well, weren't they? They were like
very much,
Liverpool 8. Yeah. And you to me are everything. We play that obviously in Day Fever, and it goes down a storm. It's just a great feel-good sort of pop classic, timeless sort of song, and beautifully sang, beautifully written, and just a great band.
Well, there's a nice link back to the Cavern with the real thing, because the band that two of the brothers were in was the Chants, which was in the height of Merseybeat and the Beatles. There was one black band that was playing, and the Beatles actually backed them.
Did they?
Yeah, they were a vocal group. Unless I'm pretty sure they was. Yeah, I'm getting that completely correct. And they were called the Chants, and they eventually became the real thing. So it takes us right back to the
There you
Cavern.
go.
There was a question I wanted to ask you with the Cavern. I'm sure you might know John and Paul as well. It's great they call John and Paul, isn't it? And is that I mean, from what I understand, like this is like I am sort of like Vicky laughs at me in those Beatle quizzes. Like I'm sort of like I'm unbeatable a lot of the time with people. But from Lennon played there as the Quarryman first before Paul had even joined the Quarryman. Apparently, didn't he?
Well, it's a great story. I'll come in because this is a good one. So the Cavern opened on the 16th of January 1957. Okay.
Yes.
And it was a jazz venue. But what was interesting on the opening night, there was 3 jazz bands and there was a skiffle band, the Coney Island Skiffle Group, which was interesting because that was the early that became rock and roll in the UK. Obviously.
Yeah.
So they were, even though he was very strict, Alan Sitton, the owner. It was a jazz club, but he did allow this skiffle. So the Quarrymen did play in the July. So only 6 months later, the Quarrymen played the Cavern for the very first time. Paul McCartney had just joined the band. So
just joined.
They met July the 6th, I think it was, at Wilton. And he just joined the band, but he didn't play the Cavern Club with the Quarrymen.
That's right, yeah.
And do you know what the reason why?
No.
He was away at Scout Camp.
Oh, was he? Brilliant.
Which is brilliant, isn't it?
Brilliant.
So Lennon was the first one. But would Ringo have played before him in a band?
Well, I think it was just before. He played in June.
Wow.
Yeah, he was with a band called Johnny and the Colts.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, that was in the June. And then, of course, July. So I don't know when.
Brilliant.
I haven't got the next bit of when Paul made his debut at the Cavern, but it was presumably with the Quarrymen. We've got a whole cabinet of the Quarrymen in the Cavern as well.
Amazing. Because they didn't play people always they didn't play the Cavern as the Beatles till after they came back from Hamburg, didn't they?
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. I should know the dates. They first played the Cavern on February 61. Do you know that this is the? I always think this is an amazing fact. We'll wrap things up in a minute.
No, that's great. I could talk all day about it.
I was going to say, I've got an interview, but Johnny will be here.
But the Beatles made their debut on February the 9th, 1961. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, they were just this scruffy band. George Harrison, famously, they wouldn't let him in because he had jeans on. They were very strict. But he got in and they made their debut 9th of February 1961. 3 years later, 9th of February 1964, 3 years to the day, is when they made their debut on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Ed Sullivan, yeah.
And if you think about that journey,
that's mental.
I mean, they'd already put the hours in from 57 to 61. You know, everyone maybe thinks the Beatles was an overnight success. It certainly wasn't. In Hamburg was there.
Yeah.
But what they achieved in that 3 years' time, 73 million people watching them on that. And we've just celebrated the 60th anniversary of that, and it's just, I don't know, there's never going to be anyone like them, is there?
Oh, it's mind-blowing, John. I mean, it's something astonishing. I mean, if any other band just kind of, they may as well just give up. It's something like about 18 months between I Want to Hold Your Hand and Tomorrow Never Knows. It's like early 64 to sort of mid 66. It's like, that's the trajectory. It's like 18 months was yesterday in our world.
Yeah.
And they've gone that far on the journey from I Want to Hold Your Hand and they got like backwards loops and things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's astonishing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's drugs. Anyway.
Drugs and talent. Yeah.
And tea and toast. And maybe an egg.
Yeah.
An egg, yeah.
Keep on the eggs. I'm still not going to, I don't know about you, I'm not going to go down the air fryer egg route. I prefer...
No, I think I'm with
Ninja
you.
eggs.
We'll stay away from the ninja eggs.
Let's keep it real with the eggs. Listen, best of luck with the podcast with Day Fever.
Thanks, John.
Hopefully you can come to the Cavern and do something there. That'd be great to do a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll keep in touch on that one.
Keep chatting.
We'll have a bit of fun, and you might get to actually perform on the stage, Johnny.
Absolutely.
Unlike your beautiful wife, who's already played the Cavern.
Already done it.
Yeah. Vicky, Johnny, thanks very much from everybody here at the Cavern Club. We'll see you again. Take care.
Smashing. Thanks, John.
Fab
Cheers, guys.
Enjoy that. Cheers, bye.
What a great way to end series one. What a great episode. Big thank you to Vicky and Jonny. I really enjoyed that. Lots of laughs. So, yeah, that is the end of series one of the Cavern podcast. 12 great episodes, I'm sure you'll agree. I'd like to say a big thank you on behalf of everybody here at the Cavern to all of our guests for giving their time and sharing their stories. Big thank you to you, all of you for listening and liking, subscribing, sharing, telling your friends. It's been great. If you have missed any of the previous episodes, they're all available. So please do go back and discover them wherever you get your podcasts from. And also, don't forget, throughout the series, we've been compiling our Cavern Podcast Spotify playlist. All of our guests have picked their 3 favourite Liverpool songs. So there's 36 tracks there, and every one is a classic. So please do tune into that. Hopefully, we will add to that playlist in series 2. So watch the space on that one. And remember, we can't do this without your continued support. So, yeah, tell everybody, get involved on our socials and tell us your Cavern stories because we want to hear them as well. Who was your favourite guest? Any favourite guests? You enjoy them all? Hope you did. And we'll see you soon for the next series of the Cavern Podcast.